Listen, we're back. You didn't think we were going to be. But guess what? I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry for your loss. No.
So sorry for
here
your gain.
Are. So sorry for being here. I'm just really sorry for all of it.
I apologize for what you're about to listen to.
I don't. I'm prepared. She's coming through today.
Oh, okay.
She's got notes.
Got notes and everything. Okay,
got
yes.
Notes. Absolutely.
I have no clue what we're talking about today, but I'm so glad that we are here and that you are here listening to us ramble on about all the stupid, spooky shit that we love. And we love you for it.
We love you. You're a portion of the spooky shit that we love.
Mm-hmm. And if you're new to this podcast, well, fuck.
It's a tough time to join.
Maybe got a lot to go through.
Maybe give it a month or two and then come back and check us out then.
Listen.
This is the time for the hardcore stance,
Listen to us when we were fresh.
Listen
and
to
young.
us when we were young and beautiful.
I feel like we're that Lana Del Rey song.
Yes.
Will you still love me?
Yeah.
Through our mental crisis.
She really, yeah, you're right. She released a new album, by the way. I haven't listened to it because, a lot.
It all sounds the same to me.
It just doesn't seem like we should pour a lot of Lana on my life right
this
now.
Recipe of no.
I don't think we should. I have actually abstained. It hasn't been a conscious thing, but I think subconsciously I have abstained from Lana's new album because I feel like it will be kerosene on a fucking fire of mental illness.
That's a sauce we don't need for this crock of shit here. So put it back in the cabinet.
It's true.
But I'll tell you a sauce that we do love, and that's our
Big Mac sauce.
Our Big Mac sauce, yes. But our Patreon sauce.
It's true. Patreon sauce. Ugh. That sounds like we over here milking people.
Well, no, not at all. But we have several new Patreon supporters.
We do.
To the show.
Oh
my God.
We have a couple new family members. We got 4 old candles over here.
What
Girl,
happens?
I was digging in my closet to find some. We done had to, because, we do the show by candlelight, so we have to light some candles at least to be able to know where the fucking on button is for the soundboard. So I was digging around trying to get the regular lighting candles plus 4 other candles. You guys are keeping us warm this winter.
Oh, yes, they are. We love it, though.
My little cold toes appreciate it, Patreon. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go
we'll
first.
Go first.
Do you want me to go first with my 2 and then you do 2?
Sure.
Or do you want to alternate? How would you like to do that? Oh, my God.
This is a conversation that should have happened off mic.
Oh, well.
You can do 2. I was thinking we would go back and forth, but I feel like that's more predictable. So you do 2, I'll do 2.
Yeah. All right. Well,
it's fascinating running a podcast.
It really is. Riveting content here. No, but I would like to thank our first of our invocations tonight.
It's like our first what, girl?
Of our invocations this evening.
Got it.
That would be Brandy H., who is a member of our cannibal cults. You know how they love them some cannibal cult, girl. All right, and our next one goes to Christopher W., who is, yet again, another fucking cannibal cult.
We love the cannibal cult.
I'm telling y'all like to eat, don't
they
you? They
hungry. It's not looking good, Chris.
There you go.
Just kidding, baby. Your candle's the brightest of them all.
All right.
Okay, my turn, you harlots. So I have our newest Haunted Heart harem member, Adam W. Little ASMR moment for you. Adam's bringing it to you.
You know they love that.
And last but certainly not least, we have Jennifer Woods, who first joined our Haunted Heart Harem, but now has graduated to a Stay Spooky Squad member.
Stay spooky. Ooh, Jenny got a good strike.
Jenny
on
girl,
that
your
one.
candle lit up. She is fiery.
Ooh. Thank you so much for supporting the show, guys. You have no idea what this means to us. We say it over and over again, but we can't just fucking stop saying it. We wouldn't be able to do this without you and without your support. And we are here to deliver you all sorts of extra fucking content on that Patreon feed. And if you would like your name invoked on the show and a candle lit for you, just for you, then you can check out our Patreon. And we've got a bunch of different tiers on there, different levels that, we've got something for everybody. We've got cannibals. We've got Stay Spooky Squad members. We've got harem.
That we do. And Patreon members, keep your eyes tuned to the feed. Well, you guys have already gotten a little bit of something extra bonus content. We release actually a full length bonus episode for Patreon every month. And this month, we decided to open it up. It's usually Cannibal Cult members and above, but we decided to open it up to all of our Patreon members just so everybody could kind of enjoy it and get a taste for what the RIP Lounge episodes are. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely go check it out. I also mentioned on the Patreon, but I wanted to mention on the show that I'm going to be doing sort of mindfulness and mental health sort of side thing that's just on the Patreon. So if that's a topic that you're particularly interested in, you might want to check that out just because I'll be opening up a little bit more on there. So if you've always wondered what in the fuck's going on with this bitch, well, honey, I can't answer your question, but we sure can poke around it for a while. So check us out. We're patreon.com/thehauntedheart. And we'll be glad to see you there. Bay.
Boo.
Leave us a little coin on the dresser if you think we're doing a good job.
Love that coin, girl.
All right. So is that housekeeping? Have we house kept?
Yeah,
is
for
the house
most
kept?
part. The house is she's tidy.
She's tidy?
Yeah, she's tidy.
As my girl would say, have we swept the floors, cleaned the kids?
Clean the kid.
Have you heard that?
No.
It's my sponge girl from RuPaul.
No.
Yeah, that's fuck, her name just dropped out of my head. All I can think of is Monique Hart, but it's not Monique. Who was my sponge dress queen? Hang on. This is a question that needs answering.
This is a question that I should
Oh, it
know.
was Monet Exchange.
Monet Exchange.
Wow,
Wow.
you just fucking embarrassed yourself in front of like all of our LGBTQ plus listeners.
Listen, I should have known that.
And
I don't
there's
know
a
why
lot
I
of
didn't.
them.
I don't know why I didn't know that.
You've just
I
fucking
should have
choked.
spouted that out. What is wrong?
I think
Typically, I would have spouted that out.
yeah. I think you have to go have sex with a woman now.
Oh, no. No.
No, that was Monet Exchange. That was our girl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's got a really good song about her sponge dress that she wore, and everybody made fun of her.
Yeah,
She
I
said,
know.
"Sweep the house."
I've listened to
No,
it.
what did she say? She said, "Mop the floor, clean the house, mop the floor." No, she said, "Clean the house." No, sweep the house, mop the floor, clean the kids. Amazing. That was a long way to go for that, but I'm glad that we went there.
Okay.
I hope you feel embarrassed.
Bitch, I'm the editor. I can just cut that little moment out.
I know you were thinking about it. I saw your edit face flash up, but you better not cut that out. I'm going to listen to this damn episode when it airs, and I promise you, if you cut it out, I will find a way to embarrass you worse. We can talk about your we can talk about your MySpace profile images from high school. We can talk about that.
I will fucking murder you.
We can talk about when you had a buzz cut.
No. What we're going to talk about is whatever the fuck it is that you have prepared. We're not going to talk about my high school fucking MySpace fucking really, really bad, but at the time was probably pretty fire.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure about it.
We're not talking about that. No.
Jury's out, honey.
Don't even. You're the fucking one to talk, okay? You're the one to talk, ma'am.
We should put an album together of like our old like shitty photos and like put it on the Facebook group or something. That would be amazing. I think we did that. Didn't somebody make a post once that was like cringe emo, like early 2000s? And like we all were posting pictures of ourselves.
We can start it.
Yeah, we should do that. All right, I'll do that. I'll take that hit for you guys. Kenny, I will take that hit for you guys, and I will make Kenny take that hit.
Bitch, I'll take it.
I'll
Whatever.
pilfer your photos.
You don't have the passcode to my photo bucket, okay?
I can hack it. What was the other one? Oh, Flickr? Yeah.
I never did Flickr.
I think I was on Photo Bucket, and I was going hard on some DeviantArt.
Oh, I did DeviantArt for a minute when I called myself like, I'm on DeviantArt, no big deal.
Yeah, it was
just
a lot.
Artist.
It was a lot. Yeah. I wonder if my DeviantArt is still active. Anyway, that's a question that no one should ask themselves ever. Are we ready to get into the episode?
I mean, finally. They're like, shit, we've been listening to this for almost 14 minutes now, and I haven't heard a goddamn thing.
They're like, damn, they've been gone for 2 weeks, and they haven't figured out how to write a fucking intro that's not 15 minutes long. Anyway. Shit. All right, let's get into it. I swear by Apollo physician, by Asclepius, by Hygeia, by Panacea, and by all the gods and goddesses making them my witnesses, that I will carry out according to my ability and judgment this oath and this indenture. I will use treatment to help the sick according to my ability and judgment, but never with a view to bring injury and wrongdoing.
Into whatsoever houses I enter, I will enter to help the sick, and I will abstain from all intentional wrongdoing and harm, especially from abusing the bodies of man or woman, bond or free. And whatsoever I shall see or hear in the course of my profession, as well as outside my profession and my intercourse with men, if it be what should not be published abroad, I will never divulge, holding such things to be holy secrets.
Now if I carry out this oath, and break it not, may I gain forever reputation among all men for my life and my art. But if I break it, and forswear myself, may the opposite befall me. All right, guys. Well, it's a Katie episode today.
Oh, God. Everyone just hangs their head. They're like...
Everyone just quietly closes their podcast app.
They pull their earbuds out and they're just like, I'm just going to go back to my work now.
No, we had some people who were missing their true crime, and it's been a minute since we covered a case. So we are covering a case today, babies.
We love a case.
Mm-hmm. It's a Katie case, but it's a true crime case. It's not we're not going to get into the metaphysical, into the what is reality realm today. Don't worry. I'm cooking on that for you. I'm coming at you with that soon. But it's not today. Today, we're talking about science, in fact.
Ooh.
Today, we are talking about medicine.
I'm already bored. No, I'm just playing.
Katie goes to med school.
Oh, God. It's like Elle Woods, but not law and brunette.
And a lot more goth.
And yeah. A lot more goth.
Oh man, I think I would actually have a lot of fun with a bunch of future doctors. Like I feel like I'm the gal
Yeah,
you
you
want
would.
at that party. You know what I
Yeah, you
mean?
would.
I love nerds. It's great. It's gonna work out. Hang on, I have to take a sip of my drink.
Well, I mean, as long as they're like good doctors, because a lot of, you can get some real tools in the medical profession.
Yes, you can. In fact, we did a Doctors Who Kill episode, didn't we?
No, we did an old.
Oh, we did a Mercy Killers.
We did Mercy Killers, and then we've done old timey like doctor, practices.
Oh yeah, ghosts in your blood. Yeah.
Do cocaine about it.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, okay. So, but we haven't done a Doctors Who Kill episode.
No, we have not.
Okay, well, it's not this episode.
Okay, great.
Because as far as I know, nobody dies in this episode. However, that's not a reason to stop listening and put on My Favorite Murder. Listen in.
Nothing dies except for my faith in this show.
Potentially my faith in treatment. No. Let me just lay some ground rules, okay? 1, science is good. We like science. We like medicine. We like all the things that's given to us, okay? Vaccinate your children. Take care of yourself, okay? Witchcraft does not replace science, okay? Just do your witchcraft and also support science, okay? Rule number 1. Rule number 2, doctors are good people by and large, okay? Even though there might be some bad eggs. And even though we might like to focus on those bad eggs because they're really interesting, trust your doctor. Don't like swear them off, okay? Those are my ground rules for today.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right.
Katie has spoken.
So we are going to talk about a man named Cecil Jacobson.
All right. What a name, first of all. Also, just fair warning, I have no clue what we're talking about. Well, I mean, I know that we're talking about Cecil
Jacobson. See,
Cecil
you have the
Jacobson
first
now.
clue.
That's my first clue. But other than that, this was a Katie episode. Like she said, I have no fucking clue what to do. I'm just here to deliver me.
Your role is to be the voice of the listener
Oh, okay.
who's hearing the story.
All right. Listeners, I am your voice. Shut the fuck up. Get to the show.
Oh, man. I also love how last episode we talked about like receiving the note that I talk over you. So then this episode we just gave me all the lines. No, it's good. Just kidding. We don't write lines. Come on.
No, we don't.
So have you ever heard of Cecil Jacobson? Know
Well.
anything about him? Know his mama? Know his sister? Know where he went to school?
No, I can't say that I know any Jacobsons.
All right. Yeah, it's
don't
not
know
a
him.
common name where we're from.
No, Jacobsons. Jacobson.
Yeah.
Nope, don't know him.
Got it. Okay. Well, he was born. He's a little.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Great fact.
He is a little older than you. He was born October 2nd of 1936.
Oh, just a little.
And he's a little west of us, too. He was born in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay. Salt Lake.
So,
Know nothing about it.
so very little is actually known about his. This is a lesser. Well, I don't want to say it's a lesser known case because it's actually very well known, but few people know the specifics and few people have like really delved into the specifics of this case.
Are you going to do that today?
So there's not, well, no, here's my, I'm going to do some of it. Yeah. So there's not really a whole lot. Usually we do the whole thing of like, okay, this guy was born and then he had these childhood experiences and this is what his parents were like. But there's not a lot of that with Cecil Jacobson. Really what we know about him is that he was born October 1936 in Salt Lake City, Utah, and he graduated from Brown University and became a researcher at George Washington University. That's sort of where our story picks up. So there's a big chunk of space from 1936 to like 1960 that we really don't know a whole lot about.
Okay.
Which I would be interested in knowing more about.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the research doesn't exist. So, what we do know is that somehow Jacobson ended up as a researcher at George Washington University, and he had no specialist training in infertility medicine prior to that appointment. So he's working at George Washington University in the fertility sort of unit, but he had no background, no specialist training in that.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you go to medical school, I don't know how much folks know about medical school, but when you go to medical school, you study your fucking ass off, and then you do rotations. Part of basically the last 2 years, I think, of medical school is doing rotations. Suddenly I'm remembering everyone who listens to this podcast who has some sort of connection to the medical profession and like would know exactly what you fucking do in med school. And I'm kind of like self-conscious now. Self-conscious Sally. But basically, as part of medical school, you work a rotation. You do it in nursing school, too, of every different unit. So you work labor and delivery, delivering babies. You work the ER. You work the intensive care unit. And they do that so that their doctors and nurses that they're producing have sort of a frame of reference for different types of medicine, and so that they can figure out what it is that they want to do. Do they want to be a family practice physician, or do they want to be in the ER?
What their passion is.
Yeah, very different personalities for those two types of medicine. But that's basically all he had when he came out of med school. So by the 1960s, he had achieved the title of Chief of the Reproductive Genetics Unit at George Washington University Medical School. So in the mid 60s, one of his big like calls to fame is that he had achieved a successful male ectopic pregnancy in a baboon.
A what? A male ectopic pregnancy.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what that is.
So basically it meant that he had impregnated a male baboon.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Rafiki girl.
Oh.
I think this was before like cruelty-free moments.
That he was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. He was like, what?
Simba got put inside him.
Yeah, it was not good.
Oh, no. Okay.
I mean, I think it was a baboon baby, but it was like, but yeah. Supposedly, he had planted a fertilized egg from a female baboon into the male's abdominal cavity. And he claimed that he had terminated the pregnancy himself after 4 months. He just decided we should just wrap it up here.
I don't. Listen, I'm not a doctor. By no means. But I don't know that you could just inject an egg into the stomach of something and like expect it to just work.
Well, interesting that you should mention that, because I anticipated that question and had the same question, in fact, myself when I was researching. So I looked into the topic of male ectopic pregnancy. And the medical community seems to be of the mindset that while it might, in theory, be possible, because you could implant the egg into potentially like the wall of the digestive tract and then like connect it somehow to a major organ in order to like feed the fetus, they all seem to believe that it would be far too dangerous to ever be medically ethical in any way.
Right.
And since a male ectopic pregnancy has never been carried to term, as far as I could find, I find it highly suspicious that Jacobson wouldn't have been like shouting it from the rooftops if he'd actually successfulely done it. Like, he didn't even publish his results in any kind of scientific publication.
He said, "I didn't know that thing died. It shriveled and died." And he was
fucking
like,
turned inside out.
And he was like, "Well, I terminated that."
Yeah,
I did that.
I mean, basically that's what happened. So I don't even know if I don't know if that storyline is even real. Like, I'm sure he was experimenting with baboons, because that just seems like way like off left field to just randomly make up a story about a baboon when you don't even do that. But I think that it's possible there was no pregnancy. I think it's possible that the animal died. what I don't think, the last thing that would be on my list of things that I think are possible would be that he actually did this, and then he actually successfully brought about a male ectopic pregnancy in a baboon, and then just like never fucking thought to write the medical journals.
I'll get around to writing that. It's fine.
The fuck?
Procrastination.
I mean, you're over here listening to. I almost said you're looking at.
Are you looking at us? If you are, hello.
Worried about it. If you are, go ahead and let me know in a non-confrontational way who you are. 'Cause I need to know why you can see up in here. No, you're listening to two of the biggest procrastinators like that there has ever been.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And girl, even we wouldn't procrastinate that.
No, bitch, I'm trying to get that clout. Like, hello, bitch. I did an ectoplasm pregnancy.
Ectoplasm.
That's what you said, right?
Yeah, sure, something like that. Absolutely. You sound really smart. Nevertheless, though, Jacobson did have one important semi-legitimate contribution to infertility medicine during his time at GW. He was given credit in the 1970s for introducing American patients to amniocentesis. Amniocentesis is a test.
Wait. I took one semester of
medical terminology. Oh my God, throwing it way back.
When I called myself going to school for surgical technology. So, I guess I might know a thing or two about rotational programs.
The hair flip is real, girl. You better watch that neck. You didn't stretch before this recording.
Amnio. You said amnio. What was the word again?
Amniocentesis.
Amnio.
Knock yourself out.
I don't know nothing about it. I'm going to say it's something like an amniotic sac.
I mean, yeah, it involves that.
Is a process of something to do with the amniotic fluid inflammation.
I think you're just throwing words out. Like, I think you're just...
But no, itis means inflammation.
Yes.
I don't know. Something to do with that amniotic sac.
Yes, it does have to do with the amniotic sac. So amniocentesis is a test that is now widely used to detect birth defects. Basically, the way that it works, it only detects some, obviously. But it's actually fairly common practice for high-risk pregnancies. Basically, they use this hollow needle and they insert it into the uterus and draw out some of the amniotic fluid, and then they test that fluid to screen for developmental abnormalities in the fetus. So Jacobson is credited with introducing this test to American patients, but my research on amniocentesis, because I was like, what the fuck is this? My research revealed that Robert Lyle Gadd is widely credited with having actually developed the technique in London sometime between 1959 and 1967.
Okay.
And then supposedly Jacobson is given credit for introducing it to American patients in the 1970s. So, I mean, I know Europe is fabulous. They're so far ahead of the times. But like, I don't know that we're that far behind, like, medically. You know what I'm saying? Like, that seems like a big gap to me. But that's just me. I can't find anything that connects Jacobson to amniocentesis other than the court testimony that's referenced in media coverage of his trial.
Okay.
So basically, there are documents that talk about him. The court testimony that was giving him credit for introducing amniocentesis to American patients, but like, there's nothing I can find online. There's no journal articles. There's absolutely nothing to suggest.
Write any. I mean,
but I mean, like, other people would be writing about amniocentesis if it was a new, exciting thing that we just brought over from Europe. And it's like, I just find it very odd that his name is nowhere connected to that test at all. So I'm like, did that really happen? Or is that something that somebody believed and then gave testimony on it just because, like, that was their viewpoint of him? Yeah. I feel like it is. suspicious.
Yes.
But moving on. After his time at George Washington University Fertility Center, or Studies Research Lab, in the 1980s, Jacobson opened his own reproductive genetics center in Vienna, Virginia.
Oh, shit.
For those of you who don't know, we are in the Northern Virginia, D.C., Maryland metropolitan area. Vienna, Virginia is not that far away.
That's what you want to call it. Hell. We're in hell.
Vienna is not that far away. It's a very quick drive. There's a fabulous cafe there called Cafe Amore. You should check it out. So that's where Jacobson was. And I actually didn't know that when I started researching this case.
Okay.
Because my grandma gave me the idea for this case, girl. I have to credit her. But I have to stick it in the middle. Because she would be mad at me for mentioning her name on this show. But I didn't mention her name. I just said grandma. There you go. Janice. Anyway, yeah, she actually gave me the idea for this, and then I started researching it, and I was like, oh, fuck. Like, she told me about this, and I was like, damn, Grandma, this ain't real. And turns out it is. But I found out it was in Vienna, and I was like, damn. Anywho, so he...
damn, Vienna!
I was like, fuck, all right, this case is right here, hometown haunt. So... At his reproductive genetics center in Vienna, Virginia, Jacobson specialized in treating women who had difficulty getting pregnant or had problems carrying a pregnancy to term. This was kind of like the early fertility clinic that we would go to today. One form of treatment that he had was to inject patients before and after conception with the hormone human chorionic gonadotropin.
Oh, I know gonad.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They call it HCG in the medical community.
Is that a drug?
No. We're dropping HCG, girl. We gonna grow these fetuses big. No. So HCG is actually commonly used as a fertility medication. It's even still used now. And it's a hormone that our bodies actually naturally release. I say our bodies like... It's a hormone that my body would naturally release during a pregnancy. Okay. So they just give you... I don't... Look, I'm not a fucking fertility doctor. I don't know for sure, but I think that by giving you the HCG and like boosting your levels of that, somehow it helps you get
it makes a
knocked
baby
up. I don't know.
Don't come to our fertility clinic. Let me tell you that much right now.
So some patients who were unable to conceive with other treatments reported success under Jacobson's care. So he did apparently have some successes. And indeed, he had a really positive reputation in the medical community. He treated over 7,000 women in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia metro area. And many women say that they were actually referred to Jacobson by their own doctors who had described him as the best in his field.
Was he fucking these women?
Because
I just want to know.
Just sit tight.
The best in his field. I bet.
Here's the thing. No, I'm not going to I have to stick to the story.
Okay.
We'll discuss it in the discussion portion of the evening. So some patients reported success, but with other patients, there seemed to be a sort of system or cycle at work in Jacobson's practice. The pregnancies progressed normally through the early stages. Standard pregnancy tests were positive, and patients' bodies started to undergo the normal changes. Belly got big. Different other changes were made. There were, the miracle of life. Jacobson,
the tragedy of life.
Jacobson performed ultrasounds in which he identified a fetus in the image. So he was actually showing these women their little fetus. Around the third month, though, Jacobson would report that the fetus had suddenly died. And in fact, these women were never actually pregnant. And the bodily changes that they were experiencing was a reaction to the HCG, because it's a side effect, because your body thinks you're pregnant because suddenly you have higher levels of this hormone that is released during pregnancy, so your body makes the according changes.
Mm-hmm.
The pregnancy tests were invariably false positives because the test determined pregnancy by the presence of HCG.
Got it.
Which he was giving them through injections. During Jacobson's trial, experts examined the ultrasound photographs and reported that the supposed fetuses were actually just nearby organs or poop.
Damn, this is your child. That really looks like my large intestine. No.
That's me. That's me if I ever have a child. No. I'll be like, are you sure it's not just a deuce? Are you really sure? You just gotta be so sure. It really
looks like a Big Mac, man. I mean, are you sure that's not 20 nugs in there?
Are you sure it's not? I feel like it might be. Look around, see if you see any honey mustard. just take a gander, because if I'm gonna give up wine for 9 months, it needs to be a real serious kind of thing.
Yeah, that's crazy. So he was giving these women this TC.
No, he was not giving them THC. He was giving them HCG.
HCG. He was giving these women a hormone pregnancy.
Yes.
Pregnancy hormone. I just can't medical terms. And then they would experience these symptoms, so their bellies would grow bigger.
Yeah, their bodies would sort of change shapes, because the it's actually really interesting, and maybe we'll do an episode on it one day. We can't get into it super deep today, but there's lots of women who believe, I forget the term for it. There's lots of women who are not pregnant who believe that they are pregnant.
Oh,
and simply
I've seen
by
those.
virtue of their belief in their brain, their thoughts in their brain, they actually can physically change the shape of their bodies, and they start putting more weight on in their middle, and they look pregnant, but they're not.
Yeah, I've seen those where people would be, or women would be like, "Oh, I'm pregnant. I've been pregnant for 3 years."
Yeah,
or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm like, girl,
it's something. It's not called extended pregnancy. It's something. There's some term for it, but it's really fascinating because they're clearly not pregnant, and yet they look like they totally could be. And it's not like they're wearing anything, their bodies are just shaped that way, and they weren't before, and it's crazy to me. But it's all a hormonal thing, right? Our bodies are really responsive to all of that. So yeah. But in 1989, suspicious former patients tipped off a local television station, which investigated and reported on the false pregnancies. Jacobson was sued by numerous patients, of course, and federal prosecutors charged him with perjury and mail-in wire fraud. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. The investigation opens in 1989. Obviously, it takes a couple years, as these things do, to get rolling. And during the course of that investigation, another darker kind of fraud came to light. For a variety of reasons, some patients had arranged to be artificially inseminated with sperm provided by screened anonymous donors arranged by Jacobson. So, of course, in order to preserve the anonymity of the donors, Jacobson explained, he identified them in records using only code numbers. And only Jacobson was to know the true identities. Of course, because anonymity is really important in these types of things. But one problem, investigators found absolutely no evidence that any donor program actually existed.
I knew that motherfucker was up to some skeezy shit.
Some of Jacobson's patients who had actually conceived through the donor insemination process agreed to genetic testing as part of the investigation. And at least 7 confirmed instances were identified in which Jacobson was the biological father of the patient's children.
What?
Including one patient who was supposed to have been inseminated with sperm provided by her husband. DNA tests linked Jacobson to at least 15 such children, and it is suspected that he fathered as many as 75 children by impregnating patients with his own sperm.
What the fuck? I told you. I knew some skeezy shit was going on. I knew it. I absolutely knew it. No ma'am, no ma'am, no Pam, no ham. No. He literally just took that man, that woman's husband's spunk, tossed it over his shoulder, and then came in a fucking cup and then put it in some other woman. Something wrong with you.
Yeah, I mean, for fucking absolutely sure. Look, I don't want to say that it's because he came from Salt Lake City. I don't want to insult the entire Mormon religion, but I'm going to be honest with you, girl. I ain't checked our metrics, but I don't think we got a whole lot of Mormons up in this podcast fan group. Like, girl.
Wow.
Look up the Mormon like version of heaven. Look it up sometime when you just, want to do a little light reading. I'll give you a crash course. The women basically, we just birth children for all of eternity. Each of the men are given a planet, and like their wife goes with them to that planet, and the man's job is to impregnate the wife, and the wife just keeps having children to populate that planet. And that is Mormon heaven. I don't understand why there are any female Mormons. No, I'm kidding. If you're Mormon, I'm just joking. This is a comedy podcast. I'm sure religion is beautiful. Live and let live, babe. But also, maybe invest in Kegel balls. Anywho, yes, creepy, disgusting, icky. Oh, I was like, I'm really glad that my gynecologist's like annual is always in February because I need some time to recover from this.
Oh God. Did he ever give like a reason as to why, or like what?
No.
I mean,
he was helping them get pregnant. That was his basic. We'll get into his defense in a little bit, but yeah. Also, interesting tidbit, at the time of his trial in 1992, Jacobson was a 55-year-old husband and father of 8 children by his own wife.
Fuck. 8?
Again, I think this motherfucker's Mormon. No.
8? That's like 15. 8? That's a lot of kids.
Right? That's a lot of kids. I feel like there is some credence to the whole maybe he was Mormon theory. I want to say that I found that corroborated absolutely nowhere on the internet. It is pure speculation. And not every Mormon is running around getting women unwillingly pregnant with their own sperm. So he doesn't necessarily reflect on his community. I'm just saying.
Ooh.
So Jacobson vigorously denied wrongdoing. He offered these explanations. He said that with regard to the false pregnancy cases, he believed that some women had actually been pregnant and continued to maintain that some of them really were pregnant, even in cases where it was very clear with an objective examination of the evidence that the woman was never pregnant. He was well aware that injected HCG could trigger a false positive on a pregnancy test, but he said that he thought that the doses that he administered were much too low to have that effect. In reality, they were like way higher than what you would normally give.
He was like, no, it was much too low. And they're like, sir, no.
Yeah. And he said that if he misread the ultrasound results, that was an honest error.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one. Yeah. One honest error. I'll give you one. Because sometimes when I look at those things and they're like, when people post the pictures of their little babies.
Every fucking time.
And then they're like, oh my God, look, it's little baby, baby Stuart. And I'm like, and you can see his little feet and his little head. And I'm like, I'm literally looking at the fucking alien inside the damn body. Like, I don't know what this is.
Sometimes people are like, oh, we just saw the first glimpse of our little babe.
How
And
are
I'm
they
like,
looking-
I don't fucking see a thing. I'm looking at an abstract
Or-
painting and I'm like, oh my gosh, so cute. And then I go to like point at something. I'm like, look at his little face. And she's like, actually, that's his penis. And I'm like, oh, well, congrats to him. Like,
Yeah, and they're like, oh, well, he looks just like his father. And I'm like, looking at the fucking blurry ass damn black and white image of this fucking whatever is in there, this Jackson
no.
Pollock looking motherfucker, and I look over. But then, wouldn't it be funny though if you actually look over to the fucking husband and the husband's face just
Is a splatter painting?
Is a fucking splatter painting.
Amazing. No, people say that shit, and I'm like, people say that about newborns too, and in some rare cases it is true. But in most cases, they're like, oh, he looks just like his daddy. And I'm like, no, girl, he looks like a raisin. Okay? He was
potato.
just born like 10 minutes ago, girl. He looks like a raisin. Just give him a minute. Let him get it together. Let's get a couple days on him, and then we can start talking about who he looks like. Because right now, he looks like a mess. Like, I mean, it's been a tough day.
Potato, newborn baby. Never seen one in the same room.
Just
together.
saying.
Just saying.
Potentially suspicious. Put it on the list. So, yeah, if Jacobson misread the ultrasound results, that was just an honest mistake.
You're a fucking doctor, though. Like,
Yeah,
you're what?
in theory, yeah. That's true. Interestingly, in none of the documents is he referred to as like Dr. Jacobson. So like now I'm terrified that he actually wasn't a fucking doctor, but he was, because I think they revoked his medical license and shit. Anyway,
I would hope so.
regarding the elephant in the room, as you would say, I guess. As for the donor insemination, Jacobson maintained that he had in fact relied on anonymous donors as claimed. And he acknowledged using his own sperm on some occasions, just every now and again.
What? You shouldn't be using it on any occasion.
He would only, no, look, check it out. It's totally chill. He would only use his own sperm on certain occasions when donors failed to show up as needed. And a patient was about to miss a window of opportunity to become pregnant. So, of course, he would just do a little jerk
Uh-huh.
and use his own sperm.
Something tells me he had his shit on ice somewhere. Like,
Absolutely.
That's what he did.
I mean, this fucking dude had a fridge like full of his fucking splooge. He had splooge everywhere. He had splooge packed away. He had splooge in his glove
He had
box.
it labeled on the
He
date
did.
that he did it.
He did. He said, oh, this is a vintage. I mean, no fucking way. Like,
I remember
no
that
fucking
one.
way. Yeah.
No. Like, how do you even use that as an argument or a defense in court? I don't understand. Who laughed at him? Someone better fucking laugh at
Well,
him.
interestingly, so he said that he only used his sperm every now and again when the donors failed to show up when they were needed. So they asked him about that fucking situation in which a woman who was supposed to be inseminated with her husband's sperm, her husband who was there with her at the appointment to donate the sperm. They asked him about that and he couldn't account for that incident in which his sperm somehow was implanted
it was just a
in
mistake.
place of the patient's
I
husband.
just forgot. I swapped the vials. And
That's what he went for. His only defense, he didn't really have a defense, but the one that he grasped for was cross-contamination in the laboratory. Sorry, I just grabbed my cup of splooge that I just that I, as a reputable doctor, just fucking have sitting around. Sorry, I just grabbed my own cup of splooge. I was saving that for later.
Oh, I'm gonna use this one. That'll be
Yeah,
good.
I was just having a beverage.
I remember
Fuck?
what I used. His labeled, and then also his porn of choice, or his whatever you would
Oh
call
God!
it on
The
there.
thought he had going through his mind when he orgasmed. Disgusting. Disgusting.
Trash.
As
and
though
not
it
in a
would
good
be
way.
acceptable that his fucking sperm is anywhere in his laboratory. Like, why?
Those poor,
Why?
Yeah. First of all, that, but also those poor women. Oh my God.
Yes. It's disgusting.
Like,
because, well, let's wrap up the case and then we'll get into the discussion because I have a lot of feelings about it. Y'all know. So basically, this was a federal case. It went all the way to federal court. And at that time, federal law did not specifically bar doctors from impregnating unwitting patients with their own sperm.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. What? It's rape.
Didn't think I had to write that one down for you. You know, just don't put your sperm inside individuals who don't know that you're putting your sperm inside them. You know?
I mean, yeah.
Just don't do that.
No.
Just don't put any part of you or any byproduct of you in any other person without their specific consent.
Consent.
Yeah. I mean, it might not be a bad idea nowadays to get some written consent. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, girl.
Written, on video, yes.
Nowadays I'm now only accepting written consent in the form of a haiku. Because that way I know that you have all of your faculties. You're not too drunk. You're not too this. You are absolutely present there. You can count syllables. Like, there it is.
Your faculties.
So, yeah. So because there wasn't specifically a law against that, they basically kind of had to backdoor the case. They built their case against Jacobson based on white-collar fraud instead of medical ethics. So the strategy was similar to how they used to try old-timey gangsters. Jack Olander, who is a renowned D.C. malpractice lawyer, he actually drew a comparison in a Washington Post article from 1992 that I thought was interesting. He said the great gangsters like Al Capone were prosecuted for tax fraud or wire fraud because they couldn't get them on anything else, even though the things that they had done to earn their money were much worse.
But, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, but that was just a way. Was that just a way to get them in jail, like because it's the only thing they could do, or was that like a way to just get a lighter sentence?
No, that was a way to get them in jail. So basically, what they were worried about with the Jacobson case is that if you take somebody to court, like on the charge of impregnating these women with his own sperm when they didn't know and they didn't consent. If there's not a law that says you can't do this, that gives the defense lawyer a really wide berth to create a defense argument, right?
Yeah.
Namely, the core of the argument would be, show me the law that he broke.
Didn't do anything technically illegal.
Right. Show me the law that he broke. And in that sort of situation, you can't in a trial prove, I mean, if basically the metric by which you're looking at guilt or innocence, whether a person did something or whether they didn't, if whatever action they took isn't technically, literally against the law, you really don't have much of an argument. So what they did, which I think was really smart, what the U.S. attorney did, they instead pursued him on fraud so that they could make sure that his ass went to jail.
Right.
That he received some sort of ramifications from this, which I think was really clever. So the fraud that the government alleged fell into two distinct categories. The first category was the description of Jacobson as a con man who injected women with high concentrations of hormones, specifically so that the test would show that they were pregnant when he knew that they were in fact not pregnant. And that way they would keep coming back to his office for treatments, and he could sort of build a reputation as a successful fertility doctor and get more patients coming in for office visits. Because, of course, he's making money on all this, right?
Yeah.
Fertility treatment, if you have ever had to go through that, is not cheap. It is so fucking expensive. So
yeah,
that was kind of the first fraud. And then the second fraud is that he intentionally misread sonograms outlining fetuses where none existed, supposedly. Again, so that he could string those patients along and get more money. So based on the U.S. Attorney's argument that the activities that Jacobson carried out as part of running his business were fraudulent, and this is where it gets like really smart, and I'm like into this whole like, these attorneys were really fucking smart. Like here's where I get a crush on the U.S. Attorney, but who was probably old and crusty and gross at that time.
Yeah, and potentially racist. Who knows?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, this was back, so. Oh, well, it's the 90s. It's 92.
Oh,
so
92.
Maybe.
Still potentially racist.
2019. Still out here waiting on him.
Still waiting.
Yeah, so they basically, because they couldn't get him on the real crime, obviously, which we will talk about, the fraud allegations that they brought against him, they said that since his business was fraudulent, the activities that he carried out as part of running his business were also fraudulent. So they pursued him on mail fraud because he would mail bills to patients for them to pay. They pursued him on wire fraud because he would have patients like wire him money and pay him money for services that were fraudulent. And they got him on perjury, that all of those things that were committed during the administration of his business, that fertility clinic. So, for example, one of the big ones was travel fraud. They got him for crossing state lines to get to his practice in Vienna, Virginia. So if you know anything about the area that Kenny and I are in, you've got DC, you've got Virginia, you've got Maryland, and they're all really close together. So there's lots of people who live in DC that work in Virginia or live in Maryland that work in Virginia. And I think it may have been one of those situations where his ass was crossing from like Maryland into Virginia, and they fucking got him. They charged him with travel fraud for doing that because it's illegal to cross state lines to do fraudulent business.
So what they did was they were able to prove that his whole business or whatever was a fraud, right? And then any interactions that he had around his business, they were able to get him on sort of like individually, like traveling to work, or like billing a customer. So they were able to like nail him on all of this because they could prove that
different kinds of fraud. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily that they proved that his whole business was fraudulent, because remember, they didn't touch the whole sperm thing. I mean, it was brought up a lot in the media, and that's a strategy of its own. But like in the case, this was a fraud case. So they proved that, or they were seeking to prove that he was injecting women with hormones to trick them into thinking they were pregnant so they would come back for treatments and he could build a reputation. And he was intentionally misreading their sonograms to mislead them. So because of those two things that they said were happening there, right? Him traveling to work in order to misread a sonogram is travel fraud.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It was really smart. Then they just stacked the fraud. They stacked mail fraud on top of wire fraud, on top of perjury, on top of travel fraud. And travel fraud actually had the highest fine.
Ooh, shit. I can imagine.
It was really, really smart.
That's interesting. Just fucking keep your ass in Maryland.
I mean, how about just don't do this at all? None of this. Please, none of this. So on March 5th, 1992, a federal jury in Alexandria, Virginia, also local, convicted Jacobson of 52 counts of mail fraud, wire fraud, and perjury. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison and had his medical license revoked. He appealed the convictions and the sentence, but they were upheld by the Court of Appeals. So Jacobson served his time and now lives in Provo, Utah, where he's involved in agricultural research.
What?
As of 2019, he is 83 years old.
Oh my God. So he's still alive.
In theory. I haven't found any obituaries. I did search through Utah for obituaries to see if that motherfucker died.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm worried that part of his agricultural research is like figuring out how to impregnate like an ear of corn.
I mean, honestly, like
At this
are we monitoring like the livestock? I mean,
yeah.
Are we looking like just watch after Bessie?
I just feel like they should just let him just use plants. Like just you can be the gardener, but only the gardener. Please stay away from like the sheep, please, sir.
I mean, yeah. Shit.
So this case had big implications, and we're gonna discuss it in a minute. But the case had big implications, especially for the culture. It really drew attention to the fact that there are very few laws governing a doctor's role in the rapidly developing field of fertility medicine. In the early 90s, fertility medicine was just sort of starting to become a thing. I mean, it had been a thing for a couple decades, but it's nothing close to what it is now, I feel like, because now fertility clinics are super high tech. And I feel like at that point in time, it was kind of like a relatively new field of medicine. And so there wasn't a lot of laws governing it. And then second is that the baby maker, the Dr. Cecil Jacobson story, also released as Seeds of Deception.
Oh, God. Who wrote that?
That came out of it. Seeds of Deception. Fucking brilliant.
Seeds of Deception.
That might actually be what we call this episode. I ain't worried about the copyright. Come at me. That was a 1994 American made-for-television drama film directed by Arlene Sanford. And if you can find that, I'm looking for that right now. I want to do a watch party of that fucking movie because it sounds like a doozy. I've heard that the information that is in it is not very accurate, but the spirit of the film is something to behold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we can find it, I will totally fucking do a watch party of that. But interestingly, Jacobson wasn't the only instance of this. I mentioned that my grandmother is who suggested this to me. She just brought it up in conversation. Must have been a really weird conversation we were having. But she brought it up to me, and I was like, "Oh wow!" She was like, "Did you hear about that fertility doctor who was like using his own sperm?" And I was like, this is an urban legend. Like, my grandma talks to me about a bunch of crazy ass shit. She doesn't understand how to vet sources. So she unfortunately reads a lot of bullshit. Like the other day, I think I turned my fucking flashlight on my phone and she was like, oh no, we're not supposed to turn our flashlights on our phones because then they can see you. And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think so, Grandma. I don't think so, girl.
Yeah.
So she told me about the fertility doctor who used his own sperm, and I was like, I don't think that's real. That's got to be an urban legend. And not only Cecil Jacobson's story came up, but two other ongoing cases that are currently in the news involving the same thing.
Shit.
In August of 2018, Donald Klein of Indianapolis, he had been operating in a fertility clinic from 1979 to 2009 when he retired. 23andMe actually helped crack that one. There were 36 confirmed biological children in all, and official DNA testing later confirmed that he had fathered at least 48 children born between 1979 and 1986.
God damn.
1979 and 86. That's not even 10 years. That's 7 years. 48 children.
Shit.
Fuck.
No.
So
I'm going to tell you what. Why the fuck would you even, all right, here's the thing. Do you not understand these fucking people can get your ass on child support? Right. Are you really trying to give child support for 48 fucking kids? You obviously did not think this through.
I know you're a doctor, but it's not a good choice.
48. My daddy didn't even pay my own damn child support for one kid, me. He didn't even do it. Shit, you gonna do it for 48 kids?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
That's what I'd do if I was the damn victim of one of this. I'd get his ass for child support.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd wrangle every other bitch around.
There actually might have been the possibility of a case for that. I don't know.
Totally.
I don't know what the rules would be, but there might be a case for that shit.
I'd get his ass for child support. I'd get...
So the other case, that was Donald Klein. That was August of 2018. There's a case as recent as June 2019.
Shit.
The case of Dr. Norman Barwin. He worked at Ottawa General Hospital in Canada, and he is currently under investigation for inseminating at least 11 women with his own sperm and giving the wrong sperm, quote unquote, to dozens more women beginning in the 1970s through his retirement in 2014. And it was reported that he did this to 50 to 100 women. And that case is also ongoing.
What? So this is like a thing that happens, apparently.
Apparently.
Fuck.
I mean, who are these men that are just saving their fucking splooge in like random cups and leaving them around places? I've never seen that in my life.
Oh my God. That's insane. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
That's blech.
Yeah, it's gross. I think what's really awful about this case to me is the violation of privacy and knowing, because I have friends who have struggled with fertility issues, and actually one of them today just told me that she is now pregnant with her daughter, which is awesome. But like it's never an easy thing to wrestle with. And it can really challenge your mental health. It can really challenge your view of yourself, your self-esteem. You feel less capable, less, in some ways, like less of a woman if you can't conceive. And I know that there are women who really, really, really wrestle with this. And to imagine what a vulnerable place, because girl, I mean, I'm very far from trying to conceive, girl. We are trying to not right now is the MO for me. But to imagine like what a vulnerable place that must be for the women who are going through that, and to have seen it in friends of mine, to read about a story where somebody exploited that and took advantage of that to the fucking nth degree, specifically with the goal of boasting his own fucking ego. Like,
right. It seems like that's an ego trip.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's just like we talked about, I mean, we actually haven't talked about Jeffrey Epstein a lot on this podcast. We've avoided that, but like, it's that personality of like a fucking megalomaniac that just wants, one of the ideas, and this is a legitimate idea, this is fact. It was written down. Jeffrey Epstein wanted a farm of women. He wanted a farm of just women whose only like life goal is to, or not goal, but whose only purpose was to conceive his child and birth his child into the world. Like, he wanted an army of his children. And that sort of psyche is just so like, I don't understand, one. And it's also just so like, to take a woman who is at her most vulnerable and really struggling with this hand that she's been dealt, and to exploit her to the nth degree for your own selfish, sociopathic, like narcissistic urge. I mean, I think it's the ultimate narcissism.
Yeah. And I mean, just think about like, and what you're taking away from these families. Like, you have literally like stolen something from them. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I understand that, like, because you have to think about some of these kids that like have been birthed, and like how that must make the families feel like in discovering this, that like their whole
yeah,
I mean, that everything is a lie, like from what they've known. Like, their actual father isn't their father. It's this other motherfucker, somewhere out in the middle of fucking whoever knows where, that you just decided to fucking act like a fucking megalomaniac and jizz in a goddamn cup and give it to their damn mother. I mean, it's like,
that's really sad too. A lot of those folks struggle with identity crises because in the Donald Klein case, and I'm sure that there were some in the Cecil Jacobson case as well, but in the Donald Klein case, that was the one that was cracked with the 23andMe, and there were people on there that they were trying to get to take the DNA testing, and they were they're not kids, they're grown now, but they said no. They were like, I don't want to know. Like, I can't deal with this. I can't know. I'm not going to take this DNA testing. I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Which I get, you know. But at the same time, if you don't, you know, if you're not tested, then you're, you know, he gets away with it. You know what I mean? Like, if nobody got tested, then there would be no case against him. You couldn't prove it. There would be no evidence. Right. But at the same time, I totally respect that. Like, you know, if you can't deal with it, you can't deal with it. Like, don't do that to yourself.
Yeah. Because it's like a double-edged sword, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And then I think about, like, I mean, it's easy to get fixated because it's so fucking awful. It's easy to get fixated on the women who were impregnated with sperm that they didn't know, you know, that came from a different source, I guess we should say.
Yeah, a fucking huge ass violation.
Like it's easy to get fixated on that, but then I think about the other women who he just gave hormone injections to and read their sonograms wrong, and it's like,
who he essentially just stole money from,
right?
Because they came in for a hope that he was going to be able to do something for them, and it was all just a lie.
Yeah, that they came in totally vulnerable, and he exploited that and gave them false hope. You know, how excited would they, like, I just think about, for some reason I started researching the case, and I was like fascinated by the horror of this whole like insemination thing, and then I came away with it. By the time I was done researching it, I just kept thinking about the women who were taking the HCG treatments, and they got that first pregnancy test, and they got that false positive, and how excited they must have been. And then when they did their sonogram, and, you know, the doctor, whatever, we talked about how we can't ever fucking see anything on sonograms, but I'm sure, you know, some of those women probably can't either. They're not really easy to see, but like, you have a doctor who's legitimate, who's pointing out to you, like, there's your baby, and none of it's real. And it's just like, that's so haunting to me. I'm like haunted by that, because I know people who are going through this, and it's like, I'd be on an episode of the Haunted Heart podcast if we found us a doctor like that doing that to one of my girls.
And it really, it breaks your trust.
It does.
And it sort of stains that makes it hard to, you know, allow yourself to go through that again.
Yeah.
You know?
It does. And that's why I thought it was, I thought it would be impactful to start this episode with the Hippocratic Oath that every doctor takes when they become a doctor. And one of the main tenets of that oath is do no harm.
Yeah.
And that's certainly not what we see in this case. So Cecil Jacobson, if you're alive somewhere with your 83-year-old rotten self, fucking an ear of corn and calling in agricultural research, just gonna send out a hearty fuck you.
Fuck you.
And I'm very glad that you fucked off to Utah. Although I'm sure the people of Utah, Utah's a beautiful place. I'm sure the people of Utah are not pleased, but at least you're not in Vienna. Because if you were, I'd be coming for that ass.
Oh, God, yeah.
We would be tussling.
I wonder if that medical center is still there.
What, GW? George Washington University?
No.
His lab?
Yeah.
I tried so hard because I don't even know. I found some sources where, what did I say it was called? The research it was like a really general name, Reproductive Genetics Center. Like I found some sources where that was lowercase, like it was not a proper noun. It was just a Reproductive Genetics Center of many. And then I found some sources where that was capitalized. Like maybe that was the proper name of it. But I tried to look into like, and I actually even know people, this is crazy. I know people in this area who work in fertility medicine. And I even like asked them about it and like nothing. So I don't know if that was like the actual name of his place, but I couldn't find anything on his facility. So if that place is still open, they have done a really good job of purging any association they had with him, which is probably a good idea.
I would say so.
The social media manager, they definitely have a social media manager, and she was like, we are going to wash this situation till it is sparkling clean.
We get a contact in our Gmail.
Please cease and desist.
Cease and desist. Please rescind your last episode. Thank you. Okay. Wow.
You got it.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's the case of Cecil Jacobson.
Wow. That was not a direction I was expecting us to go in this evening. So that was an interesting surprise. Thank you so much for researching that for us and bringing it to the table.
I just got to keep it fresh for you. I just got to keep it Little Caesars, hot and ready.
Hot and ready. Yeah.
Wait, Little Caesars isn't fresh, though. Subway. I just got to keep it Subway for you.
Subway, eat fresh.
So you can eat fresh.
Okay. Well.
There you go. That's for you.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and letting us into your ear holes with your consent.
With your fucking consent. Yes. Except for the poor person who is exploring bondage role play with their partner and they're tied up and listening to this. And in that case, I just say, hydrate yourself. Babe.
Hydrate yourself. Hydrate yourself and send us a picture on over to the hauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com.
Just for research purposes.
Yeah, strictly research purposes.
Okay, guys, so that's it for our episode. But if you would like to connect with us online, we are on Instagram at The Haunted Heart Podcast. We're on Twitter at The Haunted Heart. And we are on Patreon, as we mentioned, patreon.com/The Haunted Heart. Our Facebook group is poppin'. She been poppin'. She's full of good spooky memes all year round. You can find that by searching The Haunted Heart Podcast on Facebook. If you would, give our page a like, because we have like over 400 people in our Facebook group, and we have like 250 likes on Facebook. And I'm like, something's wrong.
The math's not quite
Adding
up here. No, it's not.
It is definitely not. So give our page a like if you would, and join the Facebook group. It's super cool. There's really an incredible community that has sort of grown up around the podcast, and Kenny and I can't take any credit for that. That's totally you guys. But we are very thankful. And we will slap our fucking name all over it. So can't take credit.
You best believe we will.
All right, loves. I think that's it. Is that all for the announcements?
I think so.
It's been a while since I've read the morning announcements.
I think so. I think the house is back to being tidy again. So I believe we're good to go. Again, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sitting there and just being you. We love it. And until next time,
stay spooky. Remember that time that you forgot who Monet Exchange was?
I'm literally editing this out.